I mentioned at the outset, you're helping to steer a massive effort right now, a global effort to target Russian oligarchs following the invasion. This task force was put together in March. How does this work? How do you identify the people and the assets that you want to seize?
Sure. So that's right. It came together in March, but it is in many ways the culmination of work that's been ongoing for years under the Department of Justice. The task force that exists now sits within Maine Justice, that is out of Washington, D.C. It draws on resources, agents, attorneys, linguists, analysts from across the Department of Justice. And it pulls on information, it pulls on data, resources, human intelligence and human sources from across the spectrum. And the idea here is to look at the individuals and the entities that are on the Treasury Department's OFAC sanctions list, and to be targeting the people and those entities really with any possible criminal charge to bear, and to go after any assets belonging to or under their control that we can identify.
So you had a bit of a running start, right? Based on the intelligence that existed before this war, there was a hot list of names that you could start chasing down immediately.
So investigations into corruption and into corruption in Eastern Europe and Russia have existed for decades, frankly, and that's certainly been the case in the wake of the Magnitsky Act in 2014 going forward. So yes, there have been investigations in the Southern District of New York, where I was a prosecutor and where I still sit today, and those have led into the short-term turnaround, short-term seizures in this task force.
Yeah. There have been many of them, I know. What kind of obstacles are you running into when assets or ownership is being disguised by shell companies and so forth? How do you get around that?
So you're absolutely right. Opaque financial structures, complicated financial arrangements make it difficult to easily and quickly identify who might be the ultimate beneficial owner of a particular asset. A primary tool here is using information and assistance of our foreign partners. And I'll say that there has been a sea change in the last 2 months in terms of the ability to go abroad and ask foreign partners for information. As the sanctions regime in Europe and in the United Kingdom has come into alignment with the United States.
So that helps you work with other countries. Where we keep seeing reports of some massive yacht, for instance, is taken into custody in Italy. What's the process when you identify the asset and have to engage with foreign authorities to seize it? Or are you actually there on the ground as well, or American authorities there?
It depends on the situation. So in some circumstances, yes, there are U.S. officials, U.S. law enforcement on the ground to assist when requested by foreign partners. But they're often executing on a search warrant or a seizure warrant that we obtain right here in the United States. In other instances, what we may be doing is providing information or assisting foreign partners in identifying assets that can be frozen or blocked in place under European or UK sanctions, apart from the United States sanctions that exist.
And where are all these assets held?
Around the world. So there are assets, as you say, in Europe. You see the yachts in the Mediterranean. You've seen yachts moving around all of the oceans.
Who knew there were this many yachts?
And this many super yachts.
It's incredible. How about the prospect of selling them? This is something that a lot of lawmakers in Washington have called for. You get the 500-foot yacht, sell it, and give it to Ukraine.
So there are massive complications in both the seizure, the maintenance of these vessels after you seize it. We're obligated to make sure it doesn't immediately crumble or get stolen or catch on fire. That's a process that we rely on some real experts in the department to walk us through.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, if we're successful in forfeiting one of these assets, one of these vessels, after what can be a lengthy period of civil litigation, then the question is how do you dispose of it? Where do you sell it? And there are options for that. We'll see what the super yacht market.
You're not there yet, it sounds like.
Not there yet. That is, as I say, it is a legal process that you have to go through.
This is noble work, Andrew, but some have questioned whether any of these wealthy Russians, whether they're actual oligarchs or not, have any influence on Vladimir Putin. Do you have any evidence to suggest otherwise, that in fact they can put pressure on Putin? So
there are a couple of ways I think that we should think about the categories of people and entities, again, that are on the OFAC sanctions list. Some of the people are ostentatious, extremely wealthy oligarchs. It may well be that their connection to the Kremlin is generally one of facilitation, financing different projects around the world, financing potentially aspects of propaganda, et cetera. There are other people on the list that go beyond the most ostentatious, most famous people on that list. Yeah. There are people who are closer to the Kremlin in the sense of being politicians in Russia, being connected to the military or the intelligence services that are closer to power in that respect. And then finally, that a major portion of what the sanctions effort is about is really shutting down large portions of the Russian economy that are geared towards towards facilitating this war.
Can you find Vladimir Putin's money?
It is, as with anybody, I imagine that we have to cut through shell companies after shell company, but it's a possibility, and it's something that we'll be looking at.